All right, I think we're live here, and we can see our screen, and we're here on our run bot. Now, so what we're going to do, I'm here with Whitney Herron,
Hi there.
and she is a business functional consultant and yet still somewhat new to Odoo and is getting up the learning curve of that. And we're going to take time to go through it a little bit.
Just introduce me to Odoo and what all is possible.
All right, so I figured what we would do is start with the sales module or application. It's a good place to kind of get a good overview of the features. And I'm going to start off by showing you this runbot.odoo.com where you can go to basically use Odoo here if you need any version of it. It's enterprise or community. So if we were going to look at the community version, you could look at it here by clicking here, and it'll bring it up like this. And this is just a blank website no one's done anything with, and I can hit sign in here, and I can change this to admin and admin. So the password I'm putting in here is admin.
Great.
Emails admin. I hit login, and now we get access to it with all the applications already installed, basically right here on the left. And I shouldn't say all the applications installed, but all the Odoo standard out of the box type applications.
Okay.
And this is right now the community version of Odoo.
Okay.
And so what I could do is come up and say, like just open it in a new tab. So we come here, and I can come back to runbot.odoo.com. And I could come to this version and run the enterprise. So I'm going to run the enterprise in one tab and the community in another. So in case anybody has questions, we could jump over to that.
Okay.
And you log in and sign in the same way, like that. Admin and admin. So now this is the enterprise version, and you'll notice right away there's just a little bit of a difference the way you navigate getting around the apps. So here all the applications are represented by icons that you can click on and go to the app. If you look at the community version, you get to the apps by coming up over here and clicking, and they're in a list, just like a little
I see.
thing. So it's a little nicer.
A little different.
It's a little nicer. You can type here to pull up an app you want to look at. So I mentioned the sales. I could click on it here, but I could also start typing, and you'll see that it starts restricting the apps because there's a lot of apps.
Yeah.
And so I'll click sales to open up the enterprise sales app. And
what do we have here?
All right. Well, the first thing you have is a list of quotations. So you'll see that we have always on the top left corner here what the view is. And this view is the quotations view. And anytime you go to an application, there's always going to be a default view. So if I went to CRM, it's going to then have pipeline as its default view. And
I see.
I can jump. Yeah. So it's pretty simple. If I jump to timesheets, for example, you can see my timesheets as the view. So you'll always get that look. And if I go back to sales again, you'll notice here that we have a create button. You'll see that very common. If anytime you're in a view where you can create a record in a model, that's going to be there.
Yeah.
So you'll also notice in this case we have a wizard walkthrough. Set up your company data, set up your quotation layout, pick the type of order confirmation you want, and these kind of things. And we could choose, it's kind of prompting us to go through these, but we're not going to do that right now just because I want to show you more of the functional aspects of the sales application to get started. And some of these things right here, just notice, do you want to remove the configuration panel? I can click remove, and it'll drop it away. So this is what you'll see after everything's configured. And we're seeing a list view by default. Is basically when you come here, you're seeing this list view. If you come over here to the right, these are the alternate views to look at these quotations. So if I wanted to, I could look at them in what they call a Kanban view. So it puts them out looking like this.
Okay.
And if I want to, I can also look at them on a calendar. So quotations have dates and things. So I can see the dates of them, and it shows them in a calendar view. Since they're all pretty much stacked on this date, they're all there.
I see.
But it would basically show you sales orders by date here. And then you can look at this view, and this is basically a reporting view or a data analysis view. where you can see in this case we're looking at months here in rows and the total amount that so we can see we had in October $7,635 in quotations.
Okay.
Is basically what we're looking at here. So you they have a graph of the same thing as one of the views, and then you can schedule I think that's what it is, activities. So here are activities associated with these quotations. So here's a quotation you can see, and that we have a call scheduled related to that quotation on November 7th. So this is basically showing us any quotes that have an activity associated with them. If they didn't have an activity associated with them, they wouldn't appear on this list. But you can see how here in a glance, you can really, easily see what's going on.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a pretty
It's
handy.
very simple, or like easy, like self-explanatory.
Yeah, it can be. And all the apps are going to kind of work this way. Is you'll have this list view on almost, most of the views are going to have a list view. But like if I went here, for example, to customers, so I go here to the orders menu and choose customers, it defaults to the Kanban view.
Very cool.
Like that. And it defaults there probably because it displays a lot more important information. It's a better view for some people. But you'll notice I can also move it to a list view, and now we see it in a list view.
That's great.
And because customers are not intrinsically tied, in and of itself to any kind of values or numbers, you're not seeing anything here associated with graphs or data or scheduling activities and things like that. And so the other piece of this that you might have noticed if we come here to like quotations is we have a filter up here. So right now this is only showing my quotations. I'm logged in as an administrator. So you'll see that the salesperson is the same because this filter's on. So if I take that filter off, now it's showing me all of the quotations for everybody.
I see.
And it's one of those filters that's applied by default. So if I come in here and do it again, it'll put the filter back on.
Okay.
So now you might want custom filters as well. And so this is another feature that's just standard across most of the apps in Odoo, and that's why I'm introducing these first. If I click here on filters, I can say I don't just want my quotations, and so that would take off that the same way as me unchecking it up there. So it's kind of showing you what is applied. And so if I said I only want to look at these quotations that are actually sales orders, so if I come over into the status, you can see some of these are actually sales orders, which are basically confirmed quotations. So you send out a quote to somebody, they look at it, and it comes back.
And then you mark it as a sales order.
Yep, and you mark it as a sales order. So we click sales order like that, and now it's all those quotes have come off, and then consequently if I went here and said I only want to look at the quotations, now we just see the quotations. Awesome. So it's just ways of providing these filters. The filters, if it's appropriate for the view, will also have dates. So I could look at first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter this year, and it also let me go back this month plus the previous two.
Okay.
So you're getting, as you can see, quarters plus
that's
the last
helpful.
3 months and the years. So it doesn't give you everything here, but that's okay because if you ever need, you can do a custom filter. And when you do a custom filter, it literally opens up every field that's on your model that you're looking at. In this case, we're looking at quotations. So this is basically everything that would be available on a quotation that you might,
need to use.
Exactly.
Need information for.
So one is order date. So, there's a create date up there. It should be the same as the date you ordered it. And so then you could apply a filter that way. Or you could maybe only want to do a filter on people that had certain payment terms. But basically, let's pick an example like salesperson.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to look at the salesperson, not me, what was his name? Demo? I think. No. So what I could do to get one to test here, I thought I could use mark demo here, but we'll test it again with that. So we're going to come down to salesperson, contain. See, why I would have thought it would have picked that up.
You'd say
because salesperson contains demo. They should have mark. And now you can see it restricted it to mark demo. Now, I don't know why, and this is just one of those things. I think it should have found it with when you say salesperson contains, the word contains to me implies anywhere in here.
Absolutely.
Salesperson contains demo. It sounds to me like this is more of oh, now it worked.
Yep.
I swore I did it before and we didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So
Strange.
there you go. But that's what I expect to work. The first time it didn't seem to work. Maybe I missed something. Somebody can put down in the comments where I blew that one. but you can see it remembers the filter here temporarily. So as long as we don't leave the view, you can go back to any custom filters here. But let's say you wanted to save that filter and you didn't want to have to come back down here all the time, add custom filter, find it down here and type that guy's name in. I can come up here to favorites and say save current search and say Mark. If I can type it right here. Mark demos quotations. And if I wanted, I could even share this with all users or replace the default view.
Okay.
Like, so if I was for some reason needing that to be the default filter, I could set that up here. And I, of course, moused off of it again. That's a little bit something in web apps that can be a little annoying. And you mouse off something, you can lose what you typed sometimes. And that's, you saw how that happened here.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we see this. Mark demos quotations. And we will just set save because we don't want it to be a default. And so now we can go somewhere. Let's look at the products. So just so you can see, there's the products with a Kanban view. If I jump back here to our, is it customers? Under sales, we were looking at quotations. That's right. So you have to go back to the right view, and then you'll notice that it saved this favorite there, and it just jumps to it like that.
Nice. That's great. It's very organized.
Yeah, it's come through a lot of iterations, and this kind of view and way of doing things has been around for a while. Another nice feature is the group by. So if I wanted to say group by salesperson, let me take off this filter. So I can remove this favorite filter just by clicking there. And now you'll notice that it collapses, and I can look at Mark's here in a list, and I can collapse them back down and look at Mitchell's in a list, and look at the Odoo bots in a list. So all the salespeople, it basically just groups them by salesperson. I can group by customer. So if I do that, each customer, and then all the quotations are for that customer.
Right. Yeah.
And then, of course, I could apply another filter. So I could say all customers and come down here to filter, maybe pick country as one of them. The delivery address. Okay, so that I just kind of backed myself into a corner there because the delivery address is, see, we have, it doesn't expose it that easily here. But I could show you how to get to it, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But like, let's say if we just wanted to add a filter customers, but we also only wanted to see Mark demos here, we could come here to favorites and apply that as well. I thought we could. And then also then come and do a group by.
Okay.
Is it not going to let us do that? Yeah. So I'm sorry, by customer. Yeah. So now we're looking at just his quotations by customer.
I got it.
One other little trick. This is just with new Odoo 15 that's new, is you can now do group bys on what they call many to many fields, or basically where you have fields have multiple pieces of information in them. So if I click on this, you'll see, if we come here to other info, that we have this tags down here. And tags will let us assign this quotation to certain things we could use to search by. So I could say that this involves services, it also involves consulting, and maybe it involves training.
Okay.
And it could be all three of
great.
those on this quotation. Now, previously with Odoo 15, you could filter by these, but it was like you couldn't group by them. And you'll see the power of that when I say, and I come in here and I say add custom group, and come down and choose tags and apply. And so services, for example, we'll see the quote that I just put in there that I had done. But if I expand a few more of these, what you'll notice, if we look a little bit, is that they can appear in more than one.
I see.
So
That's
you could
great.
have something that's every place you tagged it, you'd see it in each place.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's new in Odoo 15.
That's great. I love
yeah.
that.
And it works across the whole platform. So you could do it with products, you could do it with and the tags they're on, or the customers and the tags you have for them. So a lot of these features that I'm showing you now, I'm kind of getting out of the way because they're going to be features you're using frequently.
Okay.
And so I think at that point, I guess, any questions so far?
So far, no. No, everything is very clear.
Excellent. And I can jump over. Is there a way for me to see the live streaming without everyone else seeing it? People are saying hi there. So that's something that I will work on, is making it so when we live stream, we can communicate with people better. But right now, my screen's getting taken up, obviously with Odoo. And so I'll just check back if anyone has any questions. I can just pop back there and look in the chat and say, hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And so we can continue on, I think. So now that we know how to use the view a little bit, let's see how we could create a quotation.
Okay.
So we one of the things you do. So somebody wants to buy something, we click create. And you'll notice here at the top, we've already got like our common operations will always be in green. Okay. So the things it thinks you are probably going to want to do, it'll make those in green. You'll also see the status here that defaults us to as a quotation, as well as kind of the steps it would go through to complete.
I see.
We always get new here, and we can pick our customer, start out who it's going to be. Doesn't matter really who we pick, but we can just pick somebody. You'll notice when we pick them, it fills in their address here, and
that's stuff that you've already entered into Odoo.
Yeah, this would already come. This is just demo data that comes with their run bot.
Okay.
That lets us see it. Now, a good question though is, what if we wanted to add a new customer while we're entering this order, this quotation? So I can actually just start typing in here, Bob Sacramento, and I could just choose, like, just hit create, or if I click create and edit, it'll bring up their profile, and I could actually edit more about the customer. But just let's get through the quote. I'll just hit Bob Sacramento, and just like that, I can go on and keep collecting information about the quote.
Okay.
And then if I need to, I could click this little edit button, and it'll bring up Bob Sacramento's record here.
Awesome.
And I could fill in the rest.
Oh, that's very
need. Yeah, pretty handy,
convenient,
huh?
Yeah.
Now, one of the neat things here, if I start typing in, now usually what would happen is it would actually do a search here and bring up real companies that would fill in. And I don't know particularly why that's not doing that here in this instance, but just something to an FYI, the Odoo's tied back into the internet, and typically if I have it set up, when I'm installing them and making them work, if you type a company in here that is a pretty well-known company, it'll fill in all this information for you and pull that data as well as their logo and everything.
So convenient.
In there. Yeah. So, but this would be Bob Sacramento. And you can actually say if they're a company or not a company. If they're an individual, you'll have a place to provide their company, and you can actually link it to a company already.
Okay.
So we could use the example that Bob from Lumber Incorporated just called, but we didn't have Bob set up as like one of the contacts for the company. So we pick Lumber Incorporated, so we get all the addresses and everything we need here gets pulled over, so we know where to ship it to. But now this is who we're talking to. And we could have like a special, like their own phone number and email, so that when we send out the quote, this is where it's going to, send the email to. That kind of thing. And then just hit save. And at that point, you'll notice that it puts the company here, comma, Bob Sacramento, so for this company. And if you needed, you can have separate invoice addresses and separate delivery addresses here as well by just editing the links. You have an expiration date on the quote. And now some of these things I'm going to tell you would not be like out of the box Odoo. If I just installed the sales app with all these other apps and some configurations behind the scene, you wouldn't see price lists, for example.
Okay.
That's something that is like a feature that gets unlocked. But it's in there now, so we're not going to worry about that. And then if we come under payment terms, you're going to see where the typical kind of payment terms you'd expect, of where you can have like 21 days till they pay, for example.
Okay.
Order lines to add the products they're going to buy. And almost using the same interfaces up here, we can search for products in the list, or if we don't have the product, we can add it on the fly like that, and it would let us create it the same way as we would create a customer. But let's go ahead and just pick a product here. Bacon burger sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's our bacon burger for $7.50, a good price for a bacon burger. I think we want 5 of those. And so you'll notice that it starts filling this in. Another example, and we'll come back and do maybe one that's not RunBot, or that uses a RunBot that doesn't have all the apps installed already pre-configured. Like this unit of measure, that's also something that you wouldn't have if you just installed it out of the box. It would hide that from you.
Okay.
It's assumed units. But I could come down here and you can see if it was in dozens, that would mean I want 1 dozen, and you'll see how it does the math automatically here. If whether I'm buying in units or dozens, so it's going to see some of the features here, but I just want to be really clear. It's like exposing some features that normally just wouldn't be there
at the startup.
Yeah, and you'll notice here that in terms and conditions, it's already linked automatically down here to a terms and conditions. It's whatever link you want. You can have it default down here. So now that I've added the bacon burger, I'm just going to go ahead before getting into too many more details here, just how you would like confirm it. So at this point it goes, and you'll see it jump from here from quotation order to sales order.
Okay.
So this would say they actually want it. And when you do that, at that point, it creates a delivery order for it. And you can see that right here to say, yeah, we need to actually start making it, start consuming it, you know, put it into production. They actually want it. And so at that point, you would, it kind of kicks it into that sales flow. So if I wanted to look at the delivery order, I can bring it up here just so we get an idea. And so this is what someone, say, in your warehouse would see when you go to set up the warehouse. They would say, oh, I see that I need to pull from stock, 60. 5 times 12 is 60. And you can see that it's in units here instead of dozens. So what this means is the inventory is configured to manage this in units, but you can have the sales system purchase in dozens, which is what we did. And just as simple as that, we're going to say you've got the burgers, you've put them in the delivery driver's car, and they're just sending them out. I mean, there's no reason why this wouldn't work just the same for a restaurant, that was doing a behind the scenes thing. You don't need a point of sale system if it's over the phone or over the web. And so we would validate. And that would mean, now it says right here, you have not recorded any quantities done yet. If I hit apply, it's going to assume we did them all. So it's like it's just assuming. We'll just say that. We got all 60 burgers ready to go. And it says you're about to ship this delivery order by SMS text message. So that's something else that's been configured inside of this version of Odoo, where it'll actually send a text. And this feature can be disabled, and they're telling you how you could disable it. It got enabled. You know, by default, out of the box, Odoo's not going to do that, but it's a consequence of us starting this live streaming, really, with using the RunBot. I'm just going to say disable SMS, and so it validated it. And you'll notice over here, it's creating like an audit trail of everything that's happened. And you can see here, status went from ready to done. We know who did it, and we know the time they did it. So everything that happens comes down here, and if you needed to, you could log a note and say, hey, get those burgers out, whatever. Now, actually, this would probably be burgers, 1 burger lost due to drop. So I dropped it. And so if I do a note, this just logs it in here. So if someone comes and looks at this document, they're going to be able to see what
all the details
that it happened, the detailed. But I just logged it. That means it's not going to message anybody or send anything. Alternatively, I could come here and say, your order is on the way. And it's going to send this to all the followers of this document. And if I want to look, I can see who the followers are and see that Bob Sacramento is listed as a follower. So Bob is going to get this message. And if I wanted Bob not to get this message, I could uncheck him here. It'd be one way to do it. There's a lot of things. I'm not going to go into the full training of how you do all of these things. That's, why I actually have courses. But it is a good example of how easy it is to get the communication is well integrated in Odoo. And I'm sure like in the systems you've used in the past probably haven't been this sophisticated.
No, not at all.
How they tie stuff in. And so you can even use emojis if you want and say it's on, your order is on the way, and hit send. And now Bob's going to get that message.
Okay.
And as you saw earlier, it can also support SMS and all that the same way. And at this point, if we come back and look at our sales order, for example, we can see that we have here to create the invoice for it. So even though we've shipped it out and the sales order's been done, we're assuming it's on a truck getting delivered, or if it's burgers, in this case it's somebody's car, we'll create the invoice for the order. And we can do regular invoices, or we can do like a down payment invoices as a percent, or a down payment as fixed amount. So a lot of times people come in and they want to, buy something. You want to create the invoice, and they only can put a percent down on it. This just makes an easy way to go ahead and take that money right here at the time, and actually, decide which accounts it goes to and everything if you needed to. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit regular invoice. And now we can create and view that invoice. And it starts out in draft, meaning that even though it's created, they're not going to pay for these burgers in 21 days. That sounds like a nice theme restaurant. From like the Popeye, where I'll pay for it on Tuesday. I'll pay for my burgers on Tuesday. But yeah, the due date is in 21 days. That's pulled over from the sales order. So you can see how it pulls all this over from the sales order. But, from a technical standpoint, this is a new document. So we'll, that is an invoice. And so at this point, it hasn't hit your accounting yet. They don't owe any money yet. It's just, you're basically delivering products, and you have an invoice that's in draft, but it hasn't hit the books yet. As soon as you hit confirm, now this is where it actually shows them owing the money. And so it's going to show up on the accounts receivable now that they owe that money. And at this point, you can see then the green button changes to registered payment, following along like what we talked about of how the most likely options you're going to use will be green. If we needed to give them their money back, we could do a credit note. If we needed to make them owe us more money, we could do a debit note, or we can reset it back to draft, like if for some reason we don't want this confirmed invoice. But we'll just register the payment. And you have journals you can pick from. You can define your own, but it'll come with bank and cash. And we can either do like batch deposit now. This is new in Odoo. The batch deposit's not due in Odoo 15, but this direct debit is new. So that means if Bob Sacamano had an ACH on file, it'll actually create the file that you send to the bank, to your bank, that then goes and sends the ACHs out, and will pull all the money. But we'll just say that it's a manual. And notice here you have the memo. It pulls over the invoice number. This might be where in a typical business scenario you would say check number and put their check number on here. And you might even say driver's license number. And, you'd have a policy where it would pick their driver's license number and you'd put it on here. I mean, depending on your business, obviously. But that would be an example of where you could use that memo to store information about the payment, how much they paid, their payment date. Pretty straightforward. And you click create payment, and at that point it's done. In payment. And so it says in payment because there's another step we're not going to go into, a bank reconciliation, because someone could pay and you put the check in the bank and you go and deposit it, but it doesn't clear until it comes on your statement and it shows the money's in your account. There's a process where Odoo will pull that money from your bank automatically, log into your bank, pull that data in, and reconcile it against your invoice and stuff. Yeah, it's really,
it really does a lot of the work for you. Almost.
It really does. And I think I've talked with you before about how I've been working with Odoo a while, and there was a turning point probably at Odoo 9 where it really would work for a lot of companies, but there were gaps. There were things it didn't do that maybe some of the flagship software did, and now Odoo's to the point where even like the top software, it competes to try to do what Odoo does, because whether it's SAP or Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle or all those packages, Odoo's now playing in that league, and at a price with open source, something we didn't really talk about on here much, but you and I have personally talked about it, is how Odoo's free. There's a free community version that would do pretty everything you see here. It's like this, I think we were using Enterprise. Yeah, we're using Enterprise here, but everything we did here, it'll do in community exactly the same. The interface looks a little different, but
Right.
I think as far as I like walking through that workflow, because it takes you through a typical scenario. I know you've been experienced a lot in point of sale and inventory and some manufacturing a little bit as well. But, sales is still the bread and butter. Everybody gets that. Everybody
Absolutely.
knows that you make quotations and you invoice people and you deliver them product, and
Yes.
that shows the workflow for that. So I think that's a pretty good kind of overview for the sales order system. Let me look at our time. Does it tell us how long we've been on? Because I do want to keep these things somewhat,
Short and sweet.
short and sweet. We went over this. Let's do a few more things maybe in the sales system so that people can get kind of a look at the sales systems a little bit. We haven't really looked at products. It gives me a chance to go over some of Odoo 15's new features. One of the new features in Odoo 15 is a simple little feature, but it lets you make favorites. So I can come here and tag certain products as being favorites. And at that point, if I come here to filters, favorites is one of the built-in filters, and it filters out.
Oh, so you don't have to check through everything.
Don't have to check through everything. Yeah, so if you had certain common products that you pick from, you can set them up like that and add them to your favorites. But it's that little mark, which is kind of handy. I'll click on one of the products so you can kind of just get an idea. So products are going to be, even though we're looking at the sales application, products are going to be, omnipresent. They're going to be in your inventory. They're core to that, obviously. Like everything, if you're selling, products is where you're at. And, obviously, if you're selling services, you're going to set up service products and things like that as well. Now, there's a lot of stuff turned on in this that just normally wouldn't be in sales. So let me see what happens if I come up here to settings, and I can just show you some of the settings behind the scenes in sales. Get a little look at it. You'll notice how much stuff is checked here.
Yes.
And all these things being checked is why we see so many options. So if we didn't want the unit of, if we don't need special units of measures, we can uncheck that. If we don't need a product configurator, we can do that. And it's warning us here that it's going to actually uninstall modules that got installed for checking that. Delivering content by email is checked. And so everything, it's warning me that it's uninstalling modules. So there's a lot to be said for when you're configuring Odoo, to spending time in the configurations here to get the workflow you want for your business. And like the price lists that were showing up, I mentioned that in the quotation. That's not normally common. So usually, Odoo's going to come out of the gate without all of this checked. It's just all unchecked.
I understand.
And so I'm just unchecking some of these things.
It.
Exactly, for whatever your business workflow is. And you can see we got a lot of shipping connectors as well here in Enterprise. This is like, if I look at this part of it here in Enterprise, I'll jump over here and we'll go to Sales and Community. And so this is a good way for you, if you ever have any real need to know what's Enterprise, what's in Community, this is the best way to know, because it's going to tell you right here, this is an Enterprise feature. So I can't use this in Community. I can't use this. I can't use this, and this. So if you're doing a lot of shipping with different connectors like UPS and FedEx and all those guys, if you don't want to use like third-party connectors and things like that, and you want to use Odoo's connectors, you're going to need Enterprise Odoo. And there'll be other little things like Amazon to sync your and import orders and deliverables from Amazon, which would be really important if you're doing business on Amazon. But you'll see most of this stuff not Enterprise. Coupons, promotions, which had a big upgrade also in 15, not Enterprise. Price list, not Enterprise. Margins, not Enterprise. So most of this stuff you just get for free with community. What I can do as I'm unchecking all these is to tell you a little bit about how Odoo 15 Enterprise, the two main reasons, like big two, why you would choose Enterprise over Community. Enterprise has free upgrades from one version of Odoo to the next.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
that's
the
great.
hugest, because that is the hugest, because trying to get from, say, Odoo 14 to Odoo 15 on Community by yourself without the support of Odoo and without those upgrade scripts is very, very difficult, and to the point of where most people, it's just advisable, if you're on 15, if you're on Community 15, for example, you decide to go with Community, you're going to probably be on Community 15 until you decide to go to Enterprise.
I gotcha.
Or just stay on it forever and just say
Okay.
that's the functionality you need to hope to, when you're on Odoo 18, if we're on Odoo 18 and you're on Odoo 15 Community, to get from Odoo 15 Community to Odoo 18 Community becomes like a price prohibitive thing where you'd be cheaper practically to buy Enterprise.
I totally understand.
Yep. So I can save here, and what's remarkable about Odoo, one of the things I really like about it, a lot of systems, it would just break apart if you did that. And I'm not saying Odoo won't break me doing that, because I've just uninstalled a lot of modules with data in them,
Right.
and a lot of feature sets and a lot of things that Odoo does. I would never do what I just did on a live production system.
Okay.
Without a lot of testing, and making sure things are going in place. But I just pulled the rug out from under it because of all of those features, because what was happening was I was showing you the products, and I could really tell by looking at the products, and you can see it did not undo some of these things. Unit of measures,
Okay.
it's still showing. I can try to force it again, but generally from an IT standpoint or implementation standpoint, you don't really want to back out features if you can help it.
Yeah.
You're better to wait putting them in. But Odoo's, it's pretty friendly. It's letting me fix some of these things. But now if I go to products, and and I just got an error. So that's an actual server error from Odoo. You can click on the details, look at it. Does us no good. It's running on a run bot. But I might have destroyed their run bot. This doesn't matter much. But you can see it did recover from it without any problems. Well, maybe I did. I broke their run bot.
Uh-oh.
I apologize, Odoo. Maybe if I shift refresh. But what the reason is, and it shows you right here on a production system. When I shift, notice, okay, pro tip, shift refresh. The reason it works, shift refreshing, is there's things that Odoo caches in the browser and keeps there to make performance better. And when you change a lot of settings, it kind of gets out of sync a little bit. And so that's why I knew a shift refresh would fix it.
Okay.
But this is basically your general product setup, where you'd have your picture for the product, what the sales price is, customer taxes. It's easier to see things when you edit them. I can assign taxes here. So you can, of course, like in retail especially, lots of taxes, multiple taxes. Taxes upon taxes. That's why this is what's called a many-to-many field. You can have many items here assigned here. Yep. Okay, so I do think that this is probably a good place to stop, and we'll do another little live session here real soon. If not later today, tomorrow, and keep kind of walking through Odoo.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Oh, you're very